Treating Lu Wanhong's unmanned posture, Su Chang'e almost laughed, looking at him like a fool, with a smile on his face. I'm sorry, but by the tournament, you swallowed this dung. After all, with my physical body, if they hit me, I may be fine, but if I hit them, they will definitely die. Just thought of this. Lu Wanhong suddenly took out an hourglass, stared at it and said, ouch, how? Does time pass so slowly? Why not compete tomorrow? The sect master is also true. If I have to formulate something a year later, I now dream that the contest will start quickly. In the hourglass, note, the hourglass is an ancient timer, grains of sand are sliding down, like flowing water, very quickly. But Lu Wanhong felt extremely slow, and he couldn't wait to avenge Huang Jiolong now. Xikong too also took out an hourglass at this time, stared at the sand flowing downward with big eyes, and sneered, little transparent, to be honest, I am now more expected than anyone to start the competition quickly, see this hourglass? Your life is passing fast, and you should be dying by now, right? Su Chang'e sneered, and sneered at each other. Lu Wanhong, your tail is up in the sky, right? I solemnly tell you now that if the tournament really starts, the higher you climb now, the worse you will fall, and the tournament you are looking forward to will be your nightmare. And you, he turned to look at Xikong too, and said with a smile, there is no dregs left of you, but don't blame me for not reminding you. Xikong too also smiled, shrugged his shoulders, and said sadly, ouch, I'm really afraid. I really want to see how I have no dead slag left. At this moment, suddenly, someone from Tiantai Peak shouted from a distance. Junior brother Xikong, come and help dispose of the waste pill. Waste Dan? Su Chang'e's heart moved. Xikong too hurriedly responded, it turned out to be senior brother who, here it is. He hurriedly fled towards his peak. Seeing that Xikong too was gone, Lu Wanhong snorted coldly, little transparent, you won't be able to cross for long, wait. After speaking, he didn't wait for Su Chang'e to reply, and directly pulled out his legs and fled. Su Chang'e looked at his distant back, took a sip on the ground, and said, you think I'm afraid? After that, he stopped talking nonsense, snorted, ran the Taichu shadow ghost step, and quietly followed Xikong Tuesday. It didn't take long for Xikong Tu to arrive at the gate of the Tiantai Peak Alchemy Hall. I don't know that in my shadow, there is a figure hidden. At this time, in the main hall, Du Sihai was refining pills, and a furnace of good spirit enhancement pills was being produced. But the amount of waste pills has also accumulated into a staggering amount. Spirit enhancement pill, a pill that increases the upper limit of spiritual power in the body, can expand the dantian so that it can store more spiritual energy. Many low-level cultivators in battle, if they use extremely strong killing moves, the spiritual energy stored in their bodies is often only enough to fight one or two, especially in the fierce battle, in case of insufficient spiritual power, waiting for their end is either death or disability. Read more novels for free on our website, tinyurl.com/2AA54Z8B. But once the dantian is expanded, this situation will usher in a great change. The high-grade Xingling pill can expand the dantian to the size of a large river, and this is what Du Sihai is refining right now. The reason why so many pills were refined was entirely because in the depths of the alchemy pavilion, Huang Jiolong's painful wail was sounding. Aya! Aya! It hurts me. I'm in so much pain. He was badly injured, his ribs were broken, and he was covered in injuries. If there was a huge amount of spiritual energy stored in his body at that time and he could send out a few more big moves, he would not have fallen. here. Therefore, Du Sihai intends to solve the problem fundamentally. As soon as Sikong Tu walked to the door, he saw Hu Han walking out with a storage bag. Junior brother Sikong, I want to show Master Venerable the fire, I can't walk away, you go to find a place to sell these waste pills, how much can I exchange for some money? Hu Han said with some helplessness. These pills Du Sihai originally planned to throw away, but for the sake of Huang Jiolong, he has been refining pills every day recently, resulting in too many waste pills refining, and it is a pity to throw them away. Adhering to the principle of waste utilization, he thinks that if he can sell some money, he can sell it for some money. Yes, senior brother. Sikong Tu said respectfully, then took the storage bag, opened it, and saw that it was full of waste pills, enough to be thousands. In the shadows, when Suchanga heard that he wanted to sell the waste pill, instead of throwing the waste pill, his eyes suddenly froze, but he quickly relaxed. He left quietly, and then strode into the Tiantai Peak, shouting from a distance towards the Alchemy Hall, you want to sell the waste pill? Isn't it difficult to run so far? Might as well sell it to me. When Sikong Tu heard this, he immediately smiled. You should have been frightened by what I just said, burning your eyebrows and trying to panic, right? But I advise you, or give up, you can't get through the meridians. If you eat good pills, you can eat waste pills? It's hilarious. Hu Han also ridiculed, it's the first time I've seen someone struggling to get to the waste pill. Haven't you eaten the waste pill, want to try it? Treat them with words, Suchanga is all in his ears. Will he tell these people why? Amusing. Just say how much. Suchanga directly entered the bargaining stage. Sikong Tu sneered, you think I'll sell it to you? Don't dream, although the place where I purchased medicinal materials is indeed a bit far away, even if I try to run 300 million miles and run to other realms to sell them, I won't sell them to you. As soon as the words fell, Hu Han suddenly shook his head and smiled, Junior brother Sikong, you are saying this badly, anyway, Xiao Transparent can't cultivate, what if you just sell it to him? I don't believe it, can he still rely on the waste pill to open the meridians? Hearing that senior brother who had opened his mouth, Sikong Tu immediately changed his words, what senior brother who said, then give it to him. Immediately, he threw the storage bag to Suchanga, and said without blinking, things that are not valuable, you can give a number at will, and give as much as you want. Suchanga was not a hypocritical person, so he naturally satisfied him and said, then let's have a lower grade spirit stone. Sikong Tu's mouth jerked. You really give it casually. But the words have already been said, if you go against the word, you will inevitably beat yourself in the face. He could only say in a deep voice, okay, one piece at a time, take it. On the side, Hu Han's face could almost wring out water. Although it is a waste pill, it is calculated according to the lowest one. Spirit stone, and 1,000 spirit stones is also 1,000 spirit stones. Is this little transparent special for food? For a while, Hu Han was overhead. The blood pressure is dry. But he is not good to say anything, the word Sikong Tu has already been said. Can't he beat him and let Xiao Transparent see the joke, right? Here you go. Suchanga took out a dry and oraless lower-grade spirit stone and handed it over, and then took this bag full of spirit enhancement pills, and he was overjoyed in his heart, but he didn't show his voice, turned around and left. Just after walking 2 steps, he was suddenly stopped by Hu Han. Wait. Well? Suchanga turned around and said, why, is senior brother Hu going to backtrack? A spirit stone, in exchange for such a large bag of waste pills, is not reasonable at all, and it is normal for Hu Han to repent. Who knew that Hu Han waved his hand and said, quite generously, "How tall I am. How can I see a little transparent like you? The reason why I stopped you was completely because there was still a pill to sell you." Oh? Su Chang'e frowned. Weasels give chickens a New Year's greeting? Hu Han pointed to the hall behind him and said, "Tomorrow, Master Venerable will also refine the pill, and there will be waste pills. You remember to come and get them." After speaking, he added another urn. "So many of us in Tian Tai Peak are waiting for you to break through the heaven realm with these waste pills. Don't let us down." Su Chang'e smiled coldly and said, "Then you guys just wait." Immediately, he got up and left. Hu Han snorted coldly and returned to the alchemy hall to continue to watch over the fire. Read more novels for free on our website, tinyurl.com/2AA54Z8B. Sikong Tu, on the other hand, was called to take care of the wailing Huang Jiolong. Su Chang'e returned to the hut. Without wasting any time, he immediately ran the quenching spirit secret technique and began to remove impurities for these spirit enhancement pills. Jiao, jiao, jiao. As one sound after another sounded, more and more waste pill impurities were removed, and the medicinal fragrance contained in the medicinal herbs was gradually revealed, which was extremely rich and immersive, filling the entire hut, and the air was almost moist. Although these pills are waste pills, when refining, they also use good medicinal materials, but due to the problem of probability, they form waste pills. After all, a furnace of pills, there will always be waste pills. It's like giving birth, a population base of 100 million, there will always be people who will give birth to children with congenital diseases, which cannot be cleared in any way. Therefore, when the impurities are removed, the original fragrance of these elixirs will spread out and turn waste into treasure. About 10 breaths or so, all the waste pills transformed. Su Chang'e swept away, and saw that the granules of Xingling pills in the storage bag were full of fragrance, shining with moving light. All of them have transformed into the ultimate elixir. This level of elixir is indescribably more effective than before. The originally normal Xingling pill could only expand the dantian to the size of a long river. As for the waste pill, it is useless at all, and can only be absorbed as a spirit stone, but the spiritual energy is also very limited. But now after the transformation, the medicinal effect of these waste pills far exceeds that of normal spirit enhancement pills, and they can greatly expand the capacity of the dantian to the size of a large river. The long river and the big river, which is more important than the other, at a glance. With such a large dantian capacity, the amount of spiritual energy stored is not covered. I don't know what precious elixir will be brushed back if I give it away. Su Chang'e patted his forehead, looking forward to it. Just do it. He covered Xiaoyu and Lear with a quilt, and then walked out to the residence of the beautiful master. Halfway down the road, he suddenly had a flash of inspiration and remembered something. I forgot to give the last time the ultimate sun gold, but this time I can just give it with a piece. Immediately, he took out the sun gold and put it together with this bag of spirit enhancement pills. Then he suddenly thought of something, and took out a large handful of essence washing saint pills from the Xianhuang Pagoda of heaven and earth, a total of 20, and put them in. I have never given this thing to Master Venerable before, but now I take this opportunity to give it to Su Chang'e muttered. Along the familiar road, it didn't take long for him to successfully arrive at The gate of the beauty master. Just as he was about to push the door in, his ears suddenly moved, and he heard a series of conversations from inside, and the master seemed to be talking to someone. Someone's coming. Qingyao, the Yin-Yang Qi pill, sent by the Yin-Yang Holy Land just now. This pill can remove toxins from the body, and it can also peel away all the old and stubborn diseases in the body. It is a rare holy medicine. But with my cultivation, there is no use, and if I eat it, it will be wasted. So I will give it to you. In the small courtyard, Sect Master Lin Invincible arrived a few quarters of an hour early, holding a jade box that was as warm as jade in his hand. Although the jade box was not opened, wisps of rich and fresh medicinal fragrance had already spread. At the same time as saying these words, Lin Wuwei suddenly sensed something, turned his head to look at the door, and said, "No need to wait outside, I'm very approachable, come in." He thought that Su Chang'e learned that he was here. Out of respect, he did not come in rashly, so he stood outside the door and waited. But at this time, Lin Invincible's eyes couldn't help but become slightly solemn. He came today, only this Yin-Yang Qi pill, but he did not prepare it for Su Chang'e. This is all compensation to Yi Qingyao, and it has little to do with Su Chang'e. But now, if you only give Yi Qingyao and not Su Chang'e, this face seems to be a little unbearable. Yi Qingyao also sensed that Su Chang'e was coming, and her eyes suddenly lit up, shaking her pink and white wrists and beckoning, "Come, apprentice, come quickly." Squeak. Su Chang'e pushed the door in. In fact, he had just arrived for a quarter of an hour and accidentally heard what Lin Wuwei said, instead of just standing outside and waiting. Soon, he approached Yi Qingyao's side, moved a bamboo chair and sat down. Glanced at the jade box, and thoughtfully. Ahem. Lin Invincible was a little embarrassed, coughed, and said seriously, "This, Chang'e, you can't cultivate, so this elixir can only be used by your master, don't mind. It won't." Su Chang'e smiled heartily, and then took the jade box from his hand and said, "Sect Master, I'll help you transfer it to Master." Transfer? Lin Invincible's brows frowned slightly, a little confused. Isn't that redundant? But the next moment he didn't think so much. That's it, transfer will be transferred, as long as the thing finally reaches Yi Qingyao's hands. Over here, Su Chang'e had already handed the Yin-Yang Qi pill to Yi Qingyao and said, "Master, take it." Yi Qingyao replied softly, and then stretched out her palm and took the jade box. Looking at the scene of deep affection between the master and apprentice, Lin Wuwei's heart was touched, and he said in his heart, "What a disciple who respects his master, he just can't cultivate, it's a pity. I hope that at the tournament, he will be safe and sound." Immediately, he took out another pill from his body and handed it to Su Chang'e, saying, "Chang'e, this thing is called Hui Yuan Dan, as for the efficacy, it's quite sweet to eat, you eat first, I still have business. It's time to go." Although this thing is much worse than the Yin-Yang Qi pill, on the whole, it can be regarded as an indication. It's just that Chang'e can't cultivate, this thing has no effect in his body, and can only be eaten as a jelly bean. Alas, it's a pity. Lin Invincible thought and thought in his heart, constantly shook his head and sighed, and then turned into a flash of light and left. He just left. Su Chang'e's mind, the system's tens of billions of subsidies arrived on time. Ding. You sent a Yin-Yang Qi pill, tens of billions of subsidies took effect, triggering an excess critical attack. This excess crit multiplier, 659,000 times. Congratulations to the host for obtaining yin yang dragon tingdon. Gee. That's a good thing. The corners of Suchonga's mouth raised slightly, revealing a smile. Read more novels for free on our website, tinyurl.com/2aa54z8b. This wave can be regarded as cutting off the sect master's things, right? I have to say that this is a white pickup, which is really cool. In fact, when he saw the jade box in Lin Invincible's hand just now, he suddenly had a whim, thinking that transfer was also a gift. The result is obvious, and it is inevitable. As long as it is given, whether it is a gift or how, the system will mechanically issue tens of billions of subsidies. This can only be said. Perfect. The system sounds. Yin and Yang Dragon Tingdon can transform the two chi of Yin and Yang. Note. The spiritual energy absorbed during the day is Yang, and the spiritual energy absorbed at night is Yin, and the two are transformed by the Dragon Tingdon, which can make the Yin and Yang in the monk's body balanced, full of energy. Like Jianghai gushing, endless. Immediately, he took out the storage bag just now, and sent it to the beautiful master, and said, "Master, this is the opportunity that the disciple has just harvested, and I sent it to you." Yi Qingyao's cherry mouth suddenly opened a little. She actually expected that this time the apprentice would definitely send herself another chance. Only this time it felt different to her. In her perception, in the storage bag, there were 20 pills that exuded an extremely pure fragrance. She only sniffed it, and suddenly felt indescribably comfortable, as if all the old injuries had been completely cured at this moment. Heaven Great Elixir. Just after coming to her senses, her wrist suddenly trembled. Oh my God, this elixir is thousands of times better than the Yin Yang Qi pill, given by the sect master. Master, don't be stunned, this is all the disciple's intention, take it quickly. Suchonga held up her pink wrist and put the storage bag in the palm of her hand. Until he took the bag, Yi Qingyao's wrist was still trembling slightly. This is a heaven grade elixir, the value is extremely high, it can be called a priceless treasure. The apprentice just gave it to himself? Woohoo, there are disciples like this, what to ask for in this life? Suddenly, she saw the other things in the bag again, and suddenly let out an oath sound. This is the ultimate elixir, the ultimate sun gold. Her heart was beating like a deer beating in it, and she couldn't stop it. This kind of supreme-level treasure is not available even in the entire sect. The quenching spirit master has long been severed, and there will be no supreme items in this era. Suddenly, she figured out something. Apprentice. She threw herself into Suchonga's arms, feeling his warm and broad chest, and said with tears, "You surprised me too much, and surprised me too much. I once heard the old man say that if the heavens open one window for you, it will close another window, so it seems that you are such a person. The heavens have given you endless chance treasures, but you can't cultivate. You can only give me things, and I happen to be your master, and Luofeng was originally only the two of us. In this way, you are my destined person, we complement each other and are inseparable." For her thoughts, Suchonga smiled heartily and said, "Do you think so? That is. It must be so, there can be no mistake." Yi Qingyao became more and more convinced of this speculation. As she spoke, she hugged Suchonga a little tighter, reluctant to let go. Suchonga also stretched out his hand, hugged her waist, and held her in his arms. There are pairs of swallows flying in the sky, and there is also a spring breeze blowing delicately, a warmth. P.S. Thank you to Zhang Qiling for rewarding two people who generated Electricity with love yesterday. Aoyama's Mike Seedlings 3 Power Generation. With love. For the little author, a penny is also love. Crabs. There are others, but I am afraid to send them out to take up too many words. Although PS does not occupy the number of positive words. After being warm for a long time, Suchanga said goodbye to the beautiful master and went home. Just when he walked out of the small courtyard, the system's tens of billions of subsidies arrived as promised. Ding. You sent a Supreme Sun Gold, tens of billions of subsidies took effect, triggering an excess critical attack. This excess critical attack multiplier, 665,000 times. Congratulations to the host for obtaining extraterrestrial meteoric iron. Huh? Extraterrestrial meteorite? Suchanga was overjoyed in his heart. Since this thing is extraterrestrial, could it be similar to the eternal true gold used to create a holy soldier? It seems that it is one step closer to creating a holy soldier. The next moment, the system sound sounded. Extraterrestrial meteoric iron. The meteoric iron split from the thunder of 10,000 thunder, engraved with the marks of various ancient divine weapons, contains powerful and mysterious power, and is a rare material for forging holy soldiers. Sure enough. Suchanga slapped his forehead, and his face was full of red light with excitement. And at the next moment, another subsidy from the system also arrived on time. Ding. You sent a bag of spirit enhancement pill, and the tens of billions of subsidies took effect, triggering an excess critical attack. This excess critical attack multiplier, 665,000 times. Congratulations to the host for obtaining Qianku and Hao Qi Dan. Wow, that sounds really good. What effect will it be? Suchanga guessed in his heart. The system sounds. Qianku and Hao Qi pill, the king of the spirit enhancement elixirs, can permanently expand the Dantian to the ocean level, like a sea of hundreds of rivers, can accommodate endless aura, majestic, vast and deep. Chow. Suchanga felt startled. He quickly calculated it in his own way, and suddenly found that from the waste pill that could not increase the capacity of the Dantian at all, it had increased to surpass the size of the long river and become the supreme elixir of the great river, and then compensated for this, directly expanding the Dantian to the deep sea level. Groove, this can only be said. Awesome. It can be imagined that this level of Dantian, how much spiritual energy can be stored? You know, the more spiritual energy stored in the cultivator's body, the stronger the strength. People who are as Dantian as a long river can release nearly 100 big moves at a time. As for the people in the Dantian like a great river, there are thousands. And the deep sea, I don't know, I haven't seen it. No one in the Kanglan realm has ever possessed such a terrifying Dantian, at least no one has ever seen it on the surface, which is undoubtedly too shocking. However, many cultivators subconsciously knew that people with a Dantian like the sea, how terrifying was that? I'm afraid that he will put tens of thousands of big moves in a row without gasping, right? At present, if Suchanga takes this pill, then it can be imagined that others will put hundreds of big moves at best, and then the spiritual energy in the body will bottom, and they can only rely on burning essence blood. But what about him? Even put tens of thousands of big moves without blushing and breathless, and even can be put on. This is not a shocking one. For a while, Suchanga's face flushed with joy, and he took a deep breath and said, "How hung? At the tournament, I have such a huge amount of spiritual energy storage, and I am invincible. but before that, it was definitely necessary to fill the dantian with aura. Read more novels for free on our website, tinyurl.com/2aa54z8b. I just don't know, such a big dantian, how many spirit stones do you have to absorb at one time? Without a doubt, a horrific number. Aura can be used to break through cultivation, or it can be stored in the dantian and released when needed. He found a place where no one was, took the chanku and haochi pill, and suddenly there was a sound of nourishment in his body. The effect of this elixir was extremely strong and rapid, and in just a few breaths, Suchanga felt that the dantian expanded rapidly at an incredible speed, and it didn't take long to transform into a vast and boundless deep sea. Then, with a move in his mind, he transferred all the trillions of spirit stones subsidized in the system space to the Xianhuang Pagoda of heaven and earth. And then get into it. This is the first time he has entered the pagoda, and when he enters the pagoda, he sees that the sky is pale and wild, and there is no end in sight to the naked eye, and there is a big sun hanging at the sea level in the distance, giving people an endless shock. And those spirit stones were piled up indiscriminately on the seashore, shining like mountains of gold under the sun. That's a full 11.9 million and 7 quadrillion ultimate spirit stones, all here. Although there are many of them, they are completely insufficient to see. Compared to the sea. Suchanga stepped forward, covered the spirit stone mountain with both hands, only listening to the buzz. The endless spirit stone suddenly decreased at a rapid speed, and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Groove? Suchanga was stunned. Isn't it? I actually suck. Drained? Originally, I just wanted to absorb some casually, but who would have thought that it would be sucked dry when touched? My more than 10 trillion ultimate spirit stones. He had a dreamlike feeling. But it soon became clear why. The dantian is so big, the absorption speed has skyrocketed, and this trillion spirit stones are like a drop in the ocean, extremely small, and they are absorbed clean in an instant, and the dantian has not yet been filled. But it's easy to understand if it doesn't fill up, just like the sea in front of you, vast and vast, trillions of spirit stones thrown into it, even the splash can't be beaten. The money is still not enough to spend. Suchanga let out a sigh of emotion. It is really that the capacity of his dantian is too large, if he says it. Others must not envy death. After absorbing 1 quadrillion spirit stone, a feeling of fullness came from his body, accompanied by a feeling of fullness and bulging. This is aura erupts in the dantian. Under the inner vision, Suchanga was surprised to find that the dantian was like a bottomless ocean, and the spiritual energy turned into those spirit stones, gathered one after another, filled this ocean, and finally precipitated there. He felt energetic and radiant. This one dantian, I don't know how many people's dantian sum it is. If you don't take a breath and continue to amplify the moves, then it is strange that the horse must not shock others to death. Thinking of this, Suchanga suddenly showed a satisfied smile. Filling up is not a bad thing, on the contrary, it is a great thing. However, the spirit stone was used up by me. What should Xiaoyu and Lianer do? He suddenly frowned. But the next second it stretched out. He remembered the 2 private banks coming. It's been so long, those 2 spiritual veins should also condense a lot of spirit stones, right? Then go and harvest a wave. With a bang, he came out of the Xianhuang Pagoda of heaven and earth, and then sacrificed the rainbow sword, stepped on the sword, and flew quickly towards Panlong Mountain first. One of the 2 major banks is in Panlong Mountain, and the other is in Kunlun Mountain. Kunlun Mountain was a little farther away. In comparison, Panlong Mountain was much closer, so Suchanga took the lead to Panlong Mountain. He planned to harvest all the spirit stones newly produced by the two spiritual veins, and then come back to give them to Xiaoyu and Lianer, and as for the subsidy, he took it himself, which can be said to be clearly distributed. And this subsidized spirit stone should be able to replenish a huge amount of spiritual energy to the Dantian. Since it didn't take long to go out to get the spirit stone, he didn't take Xiaoyu and Mercy. It is estimated that they will come back after a good night's sleep. Soon, Suchanga flew out of the sect. After flying tens of thousands of kilometers, he suddenly raised his eyebrows and heard what seemed to be something below. Looking down, I saw a canyon below, and a group of centaurs were carrying a palanquin through the canyon, about 30 or 40 of them. Each of them was fierce and vicious, and he was dressed as a robber. And in the palanquin, the woman's cry was heard intermittently. Mother, father, brother, I followed them up the mountain, and I may never see you again in this life. With a bang, a bandit led by him kicked the palanquin and roared lowly, little ladies, you cry. In the future, with King Ben, you are the lady of the village. We eat meat in large chunks and drink in large bowls, not happier than in the village? The woman whimpered, too frightened by the kick to speak. In the void, Suchanga guessed slightly and immediately understood. It must be a nest of robbers who robbed a young girl and prepared to escort her back to be the lady of the village. He swept away his consciousness and found that in the palanquin was a girl of 18 or 19 years old, without a trace of cultivation on her body. She was clearly immortal. And those robbers are all mortals. However, at the head of the convoy, there was a tall man with a tall horse and a big axe in his hand. Looking back and forth vigilantly, he had cultivation. And at the level of the divine palace, it seemed that it should be an offering invited by this nest of robbers. When encountering this kind of thing, Suchanga naturally can't ignore it. Lu Jianping roared, and when it was time to strike, he struck. It is incumbent upon me to do chivalry and righteousness. Who doesn't want to be a hero yet? Besides, this shot is also profitable. Think about it, since the following are robbers, then they must have a rich family base, and they must be ransacked. Most importantly, you can also experience the thrill of a handful of vegetables. At this thought, Suchanga raised his eyebrows, and disappeared with a sigh. The convoy moved quickly through and soon exited the canyon. After more than 10 miles, you will reach Erlong Mountain, where the robbers' cottage is located, called Erlongzai. At this time, the tall man led the convoy out of the canyon, and suddenly saw a white-cloaked figure standing in front of him, blocking the way. That figure was dressed in fluttering, his long hair fluttered in the wind. And he was holding a green dragon moon knife, which was very heroic. The tall man's eyes became solemn. From this figure, he sensed a very unfriendly aura and said vigilantly, "Who is ahead? Why am I blocking my way?" Suchanga played with the knife in his hand and said with a light smile, "Without him, it is purely because you are unhappy, robbing the girls of the good family in broad daylight. Such acts are despised." Ha ha ha. The tall man laughed. I didn't expect that there are still people who do chivalry and righteousness this year. It's really rare, you know that. Good people are not rewarded. Suchanga said coldly, there is really a lot of nonsense. Ho the strong to help the weak. As long as the road is uneven, pull out the sword to help. The tall and strong man stopped talking nonsense, boomed, burst out of the cauldron, and the strong cyan true chi swept like a wind and waves, and slammed towards Suchanga. From Suchanga, he couldn't sense the slightest aura of cultivation. The reason is simple, there are too many differences between the two. But he subconsciously felt that the other party's cultivation was inferior to him, so he shot confidently. As soon as he made a move, there was a loud applause from the little minions. Wow, it's worthy of the king's offering, this strong cyan true chi is like a hurricane, scraping my face and stinging. Not bad, I feel a knife light hitting my face, like a knife-stirring feeling. It hurts too much. You know a fart. Wang Xianfeng is an inner disciple who defected from a large sect. The Dantian capacity is like a long river, can burst out hundreds of big killing moves in one breath, fierce and abnormal, that person does not measure himself to want to do chivalry, it is really dancing on the tip of the knife. In the blink of an eye, Wang Xianfeng killed Suchonga's side and shouted. Broken cauldron 5 consecutive axes. Click. 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 5 axes of light streaked in unison, arcs splashed, and the visual senses were extremely terrifying. This was the strongest killing move of Wang Xian. And he had used this student to cross the border to forcibly kill a Nirvana realm cultivator. But when these 5 axes fell, everyone was stunned. I saw that Suchonga only stretched out one finger and clamped his big axe between his 2 fingers, not moving. And that terrible arc collapsed in an instant. This. Wang Xian was stunned. Everyone else's eyes suddenly widened, as if they had seen a ghost. After a long time, Wang Xian finally came to his senses and tried his best to get the axe back, but found that he could not move it anyway. Read more novels for free on our website, tinyurl.com/2aa54z8b. The axe seemed to be embedded in the opponent's hand, even if he clenched his teeth and mobilized his whole body strength, he could not move. Can't help but exclaim, you. Why are you so vigorous? I'm too lazy to explain it to you. Suchonga was light. Damn, don't underestimate Lao Tzu. It's the Nirvana realm. Lao Tzu also hacked to death once. Wang Xianfeng shouted angrily, feeling that the other party should be a big realm higher than him, so he didn't want an axe, and violently took out a machete from the storage bag, swung it up, and cut out 97 knives in one go. Click. Click. 97 electric arcs flickered, mixed with terrifying sharp sword light, tearing the air and shooting towards Suchonga. These 97 knives were also his strongest killing moves, and after the slash, he collapsed on the ground tiredly, gasping for breath, and could no longer get up. The spiritual power in the body has been exhausted. Click. The furious knife light approached Suchonga's face, the wind hunted, and the sonic boom roared. At this time, many robbers who were stunned on the side also came to their senses, and suddenly shouted one by one, hack him to death. The king worships, hack him to death. Suchonga smiled coldly, the green dragon moon knife waved his arm, and suddenly endless fireworks burst out, lightning volleys, and many robbers who were far away felt that their eyes were almost blinded, and their eye membranes hurt. 97 big moves in a row? Well, in order to show respect, my little 1,000 big moves cannot be respected. Oh. Whoosh. Whoosh. Sparks burst out, like endless lightning, one after another terrifying sword light cut through the sky, effortlessly tearing apart all the killing moves offered by the king, and then like a fish on a chopping board, chi brushes slashed at him. Boom. 1 cut. Boom. 2 cuts. Boom. 30 knives. After 1,000 times passed, Wang Xianfeng was chopped into pieces of meat, alive before he could even scream. I grass. One by one, the robbers' bodies stiffened, and their mouths opened. So wide that they could almost stuff an egg. They had never seen anyone so strong that they slashed 1,000 knives in an instant? Nope. Suddenly someone reacted. That's not 1,000 knives, every knife he cuts, there is 100 knives. In other words, he slashed out 100,000 knives in 1 second. I grass. Everyone brushed a stirring spirit, and they were really frightened. It's quite eye-catching. Suchanga extended a thumb towards the man, and then rewarded him with a knife. The man's head flew directly up, and his body disappeared. Just now, what he cut out was the lightning shadowless knife, and under the blessing of the vast aura in his body, he burst out instantly, slashing out 1,000 lightning shadowless knife in an instant. This wave of wild chopping down, the king's offering, directly became sashimi. Plop. Plop. All the robbers knelt down and cried bitterly, just now we didn't know. Tarzan, please. Boom. Suchanga blasted out a palm, and the strong palm force was like a mountain. Crushing, instantly slamming at them, and suddenly vomited a large piece of blood in the field, and then she brushed down, without breathing. Ugh. There was a one-eyed bandit in the field who was frightened, and at the moment when the palm force pushed horizontally, his face was like dead ash. And he directly lay on the ground and pretended to die. Suchanga searched these people for a while, and soon found 80,000 top-grade spirit stones. Just as he was about to leave, the curtain of the palanquin suddenly opened. And a voice came out. Anong, please stay. In the palanquin, the mortal woman was surprised and delighted, her eyes shining, and she was extremely happy. How can you not be happy to get out of trouble from the mouth of the tiger? Hearing the sound behind him, Suchanga stopped. Turning to look, I saw the mortal girl walking out of the palanquin. Her body was graceful, her skin was like white jade, and she was quite beautiful. At the same time that he looked at the girl's smart eyes were also looking at him. At this time, the girl's eyes were full of gratitude when she looked at Suchanga, as well as deep adoration and admiration. She had just heard the sound of a fierce fight in the palanquin, and she had not had much hope, because no one had rescued her before. But those people did not make a move in front of the king's offering, and they were hacked and killed with an axe. The king's worship is a divine palace realm, almost like a husband, and there is no way to open it. But this Duke of Grace in front of him, almost without even reacting, not only enshrined the king to pieces of corpses, but even killed all these bandits. That's awesome. Moreover, look at his demeanor, heroic and martial, jade tree in the wind. Like a fairy in the sky. The girl's cheeks quietly flushed. Are you an immortal? She crossed her fingers and asked nervously. Immortals? Suchanga asked rhetorically, why did the girl say this? That, the girl was very nervous, our ordinary cultivators are just called martial artists, and a flying great cultivator like you should be called Immortals, so. Suchanga understood. Nothing else, I'll go first. He wasn't going to stay long. Wait a minute. The girl's heart is reluctant, her eyes are longing, and there is reluctance flowing out. But after shouting Suchanga, she didn't know what to say, her brain was blank, and her heart was beating nervously. Are you okay? Suchanga turned around and asked. That. Can you take me to heaven to see? I really want to go to heaven and see. The girl asked cautiously. How much she wants to be like an immortal, flying in the sky, flying with a sword, and seeing the world in the sky. However, she is only a mortal person, and flying the imperial sword is an Unattainable luxury for her. Hearing the girl's words, Suchanga had some resonance in her heart. When he was in Blue Star in his previous life, he dreamed of flying in the air. After crossing, the first thing is to realize this dream. Since you want to see it, then I'll take you to see it. Suchanga waved his big hand, and before the girl could react, she found that she had been carried on her shoulder by an immortal. Then, Suchanga's heart moved, and the vast coercion was like a magnificent sea. His body was as light as a swallow, rising from the flat ground and rushing straight to the sky. After the two left, the one-eyed robber suddenly opened his eyes and cursed angrily in his heart, "Damn, this woman helped Lao Tzu by mistake, grass." He quickly sneaked up and fled towards Erlong Mountain with a puff of smoke. Suchanga carried the girl, like a rocket rising into the air, rising step by step. 100 meters. 500 meters. 700 meters. 1,000 meters. In just a few breaths, it soared into the air at a height of thousands of meters. Wow. Immortals are so powerful. The girl was surprised and delighted, and the branches trembled with excitement. Suchanga smiled faintly, and with a sharp force, only listening to the sound of bang, the speed suddenly increased dozens of times. 3,000 meters. 6,000 meters. Read more novels for free on our website, tinyurl.com/2AA54Z8B. 8 kilometers. 10,000 meters. In just a few breaths, he rose to a height of 10,000 meters. Wow. That's awesome. The girl covered her mouth, her little heart pounded in her body, and she was extremely excited. She had never flown so high in the air, and at this moment she looked down at the canyon, only to see that the huge canyon just now had become as small as a grain of rice at this moment, and the Erlong Mountain, as well as the nearby peaks, were the size of an ant's head. This huge contrast shocked her, and her heart beat faster. It's not over yet. Suchanga's heart moved, and the breath on his body climbed step by step, and with a boom, he rose straight to 1,000,000 meters in the air. This time, the girl was even more shocked, and her mouth was unable to speak. At this height, the unreachable white cloud is by her side. This is her dream. She hopes that one day, she can touch the white cloud. She opened her palm, stroked it on the cloud, and started as if she touched nothing. Her hand felt delicate and soft, and the next moment, the white cloud dissipated, and then it was like a mist, condensed together. It turns out that white clouds and fog are the same. Extremely satisfied in her heart, she rested her chin on Suchanga's solid shoulder and said softly, "En. Gong, thank you for satisfying me." Suchanga smiled heartily, and then slammed her power, and her figure was like electricity, instantly taking her into the tens of millions of meters of void. Oh my goodness! The girl froze in shock, staring at all this blankly. Stunned. She stared blankly into the distance, as far as her eyes could see, mountains and cities in the distance. It's all the size of a black sesame seed. Even, at the end of the line of sight, even the horizon can be seen. For a time, she was shocked to the extreme, and her heart was pounding wildly. After a while, she came back to her senses, only to feel that the immortal under her was so tall and majestic, and his body was like a mighty mountain. Like a heavenly Graben, able to support all her wishes. She fulfilled her wish and smiled contentedly. "Do you still want it?" Suchanga's clothes flew in the wind, dashing and uninhibited. "No, don't want it, Anong, I can't stand it anymore, I'm going to be out of breath." The girl's body was soft, begging for mercy. Tens of millions of meters of void, thin air, she almost can't stand it, let alone fly up? Then go down. Suchanga flew towards the canyon below. At the same time, Erlongzai. The one-eyed robber fled all the way back here, shouting hysterically, the big master, the second boss, the big thing is not good, the third boss is killed. Huh? In the depths of the cottage, Yang Chong, the big boss, and Meng Hu, the second leader, heard this, and immediately raised their eyebrows. In this area, with a radius of 100 miles from Erlong Mountain, they dominate and dominate, which one who does not have long eyes dares to provoke? The next moment, the one-eyed robber added anxiously, it was an immortal who killed him. If my expectations are correct, that immortal will definitely come to cut the grass and remove the roots. Let's quickly pack up and escape. What? Immortals? Yang Chongmeng, who was stunned, and immediately gasped. Mom, people just provoke themselves, how can they drop? Big brother, how strong are the immortals, flying in the sky, we are just mortal bodies in the flesh, the speed difference is too big, how can we run away? Meng Hu realized something and lost his voice. Yang Chong was suddenly anxious when he heard this, and said, then what do you say? Meng Hu's mind raced, and after a moment, he gritted his teeth, you can only use bitter meat. Yang Chong's eyes lit up and asked, what kind of bitter meat scheme? Meng Hu whispered in his ear. Wonderful, wonderful. Knowing the strategy, Yang Chong immediately gave a thumbs up. Immediately, the two found a fast horse and quickly ran towards the canyon. When Yang Chong and Meng Hu arrived at the exit of the canyon, they happened to encounter Suchanga falling from the void. Yang Chong fixed his eyes and immediately saw the girl on his shoulder. This girl he knew was the girl who had been taken captive, named Gao Xianer. In an instant, Yang Chong guessed that this man in white must be the immortal. Here, Suchanga saw two bandit-like men riding over, and immediately expected that it was probably the bandits' leader who came to seek revenge. He was about to swing a knife to kill, but unexpectedly the two men suddenly dismounted, both knelt down, 2 lines of tears in their eyes, and kowtowed to themselves. Suchanga was puzzled, what's going on with you two? Meng Hu held, the villain Meng Hu, and Yang Chong Duanlong are the 3 brothers of Jie, and on the day of the first marriage, the 3 of us once swore to the heavens, I don't want to be born in the same year and the same month and the same day, but I want to die in the same year and the same month and the same day, although it is not as good as the Middle Ages. Lu Guanzhong, the 3 saints are righteous and thin, but the 3 of us yearn for it wholeheartedly. Today the 3rd brother Duanlong has no eyes, offended the immortal tiger power, and was killed by you. The 2 of us have nothing else to ask for, only one death, so I sent it to the door. The immortal wants to kill and kill, listen to the respect, the 2 of us have no complaints. In the Middle Ages, Lu Guan Zhang Taoyuan Sanjie, Martial Saint Guan Yu, Sword Saint Liu Bei, Blood Hero Saint Zhang Fei, will appear later. And Duanlong was the one who kicked on the palanquin just now, which scared Gao Xianer and did not dare to speak. Yang Chong was heartbroken, holding his head and crying, oh my 3rd brother. At the beginning, we swore blood and wanted to die together, as the old saying goes, brothers are like brothers, love is as deep as the sea. Greedy for life and afraid of death is not a good man. Today your eldest brother and 2nd brother will come to you. Seeing this scene, Gao Xianer couldn't help but burst into tears and sighed. What a profound righteous chi. Bang bang. Yang Chong Duanlong kowtowed dozens of times towards Suchanga, and said inspiringly, Immortals, our 2 brothers have nothing else to ask for, only To be buried with the third brother after death, and also ask the Immortals to fulfill our last wishes. After the nonsense is over, please do it. Su Chang'e was about to make a move, but Gao Xian'er suddenly looked at him and persuaded, Duke N, the two of them are very righteous. If they are killed, won't it make the world laugh at you are not a good man? Yang Chong Duanlong was suddenly overjoyed in his heart. Unexpectedly, Su Chang'e shook his head and said with a faint smile, What false name do you want? Since they are going to die, it is better to fulfill them. This is not more able to end up a good name for human beauty? Gao Xian'er? Yang Chong Duanlong? Ugh. The two pulled their legs and ran. Almost one runs faster than one. They came here hoping to move Su Chang'e with righteousness, but they didn't expect that the other party's brain circuit was clear, and they really wanted to send them to the western heaven. Seeing that they were leaving, Su Chang'e's face suddenly changed. Could it be that these two are? Yes. Boom. He shot out in an instant, and the rolling coercion surged like a terrifying wave, blocking all his paths. Bang! Yang Chong Meng who was fleeing, crashed into the enchantment, and suddenly his eyes flashed Venus, and the head he hit broke and bleed. Gao Xian'er reacted even if she was stupid at this time. It turns out that these two people were not well from the beginning. What righteousness is thin cloudy, what righteousness is deep, all are deceiving people. You too, don't you think I'm very good? Su Chang'e smiled coldly, and the green dragon moon knife appeared in his hand, and the sharp blade glowed with blood and cold light, and quickly pressed towards Yang Chong and Meng Hu. Yang Chong Meng who was suddenly frightened, his face turned pale like a layer of powder, and he plopped down on his knees and banged his head. Finished. It's all over. If you don't come here, you may be able to live a little longer, or even more likely to have escaped. It's too late to say anything. Read more novels for free on our website, tinyurl.com/2aa54z8b. Along, these two are so cunning. A cold glint flashed in Gao Xian'er's eyes. So, it must be killed. Su Chang'e answered, broke through the air with a knife, and slashed away. Click! The sword flashed, and a human head flew up, bringing blood to the flow. This is Yang Chong's head. Before he died, his eyes widened, and he felt regret in his heart. I really hope that there is a regret medicine to take in this world. Seeing Yang Chong's tragic death, Meng Hu suddenly exclaimed like a pig, "Aaaaa! Don't! Immortals! No, I kowtow to you. I don't want to die, I really don't want to die, I want to live. Ah!" Click! Another human head flew up, bone stubble splattered, and blood poured down. Su Chang'e slowly retracted the knife, stood with his hands in his hands, and was calm and relaxed. Gao Xian'er kicked Meng Hu fiercely, and said coldly, "Didn't you just bother with death and listen to the honor? Why don't you want to die when this is dying? What a face!" After speaking, he took a sip, and his face turned blue with anger. Immediately, she turned her head and said, "Erlong, although these two people are dead, there must be many small minions in Erlong's eye. It is better to sweep them all together in the past, and the future troubles will be endless." Su Chang'e nodded and said, "That's how it should be." In fact, he felt that sweeping a cottage would definitely get rich spirit stones, so he would definitely go, not for nothing. Gao Xian'er took the lead in riding Yang Chong's fast horse and headed towards Erlong Mountain. Su Chang'e was not in a hurry. He searched Yang Chong and Meng Hu for a while, and found a total of 100,000 spirit stones, and then he rode away. Although you can fly, It is good to ride a horse occasionally and fight a knife. It didn't take long for Erlangchen. 2 fast horses came to the foot of the mountain, and it was Suchanga and Gao Shanner who immediately sat down. As far as the eye can see, the mountain is not big, only about 3 or 400 feet high, and the trees are full of lush greenery. Halfway up the mountain, 2 huge mounds arch there, which look like the heads of 2 dragons from a distance, hence the name Erlang Mountain. At this time, there was a sound of hurried footsteps not far from the mountain, and more than a dozen robbers were fleeing down in a panic. When they reached the bottom of the mountain, they saw someone coming on horseback, and they were overjoyed and said, "Can you 2 borrow a horse?" When I spoke, I grabbed it directly. This is the nature of robbers. At present, time is precious, and it is naturally faster to escape with a horse. It's just that because they were alarmed, they didn't recognize the 2 horses at all as the big boss and the second boss. And they don't think that Suchanga is an immortal. After all, immortals are flying away. How can they ride horses? Boom. Suchanga felt that these people were purely changing tricks to death, not talking nonsense, and it was a knife in their heads. Oh. At the beginning of the cold light, these robbers only felt a chill in front of them, and then they felt a chill in their heads, and then they fell down with a plop, and they lost their lives. More than a dozen heads, all cut off with 1 knife. Kill it. Suchanga jumped down from his horse, picked a path, and went straight to the mountain. Gao Shanner followed closely behind him, her eyes full of admiration. Erlang is really powerful, killing those robbers who are fierce and vicious on weekdays is like killing chickens and slaughtering dogs. Along the way, Suchanga encountered several waves of bandits who fled downward. Boom. He swung his sword, and blood gushed out. Dozens of bodies also fell to the ground. Suchanga snorted coldly and continued to kill upward. Soon, he killed all the way from the mountain to the mountain, and the big knife he killed was stained with blood, and the Erlang Mountain who killed was terrified. On the top of the mountain, in the village, some robbers had just left the gate of the village to escape, and when they saw him killing him all the way from a distance, their faces turned pale, and they all retreated into the village. Quick! Close the gate of the walled village. The robber panicked. Immediately, hundreds of strong minions joined forces to close the gate of the village. This gate is cast of pig iron, like thousands of scales smelted and cast. It is extremely thick and heavy, and the hardness is even more terrifying. When the gate closed, many robbers breathed a sigh of relief and felt a full sense of security. Outside, the mountain road where Suchanga killed was full of corpses. Blood flowed like rivers, and soon killed in front of the gate of the village. By this time, all the robbers who were wandering outside and preparing to escape were all killed by him. The rest is all in this village. Standing in front of the door, Suchanga's divine sense swept in, and he immediately noticed that there were thousands of these robbers. Most of them were mortals, and only one had the aura of the golden body realm tumbling on his body, which should be at the level of the master. This kind of robber's den, if not cleared and retained, will only become a scourge. He glanced at the heavy gate and drank coldly. Let you see what is called abusive vegetables. Whoosh! A knife cut out, and in an instant, a dazzling arc shot out, slashing fiercely towards the walled gate. One cut. Just a knife. With a loud bang, this knife directly smashed the thick pig iron walled gate. And the iron gate burst open and exploded. Boom! Erlang's eye was in an uproar. Is this the power of immortals? In an instant, all the robbers shivered, and immediately scattered like a tide, drilling towards the corner of the village, hoping to retrieve a life. Suchanga strode into the cottage, and saw that one killed one, like chopping melons and cutting vegetables, and soon the green dragon moon knife was stained with blood, and I don't know how many heads were cut off. It's just a piece of information. Blood flowed all over the ground, flowing against the river, towards the village. For masters, you come out soon, if you don't come out again, we'll be finished. Someone shivered and drank. A gasp immediately sounded in the field. My stomach hurts, I want to go to the hut. Take a step first. Suchanga fixed his eyes, and saw that there was indeed a man with a head who was ready to slip away, and his cultivation was the golden body realm. Without hesitation, he was immediately given a knife. The man's face instantly turned as white as earth, and before he could let out a scream, his head was split in half, and red and white things splattered all over the ground. Shoo! The crowd gasped in unison, and then one by one quickly fled to the back door of the cottage. The cottage is divided into a front door and a back door, but the back door opens the door to the cliff, and it is either dead or disabled if it falls. But now instead of dying, it's better to fight. Read more novels for free on our website, tinyurl.com/2aa54z8b. In the blink of an eye, the fastest bandit had already run to the back door. Suchanga's body was shocked, and the back door was instantly blocked, and no one wanted to escape. I don't want to die, I still want to be happy, how can? Ask the Immortal. Click. 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 Suchanga killed from the front door to the back door. Mercilessly all the way, slashed sharply, and soon killed most of them. Eat me a blow. In the crowd, a strong bandit shouted fiercely, trapped the beast, and lifted 100-pound stone and smashed it. Boom. The large stone caused a sonic boom in the air. This person is the 5th leader of the Erlong village, a mortal warrior. Although his cultivation is low, but he is born with divine power, and hundreds of pounds of large stones are like sandbags in his hands. Oh? In the face of 100 pounds of stone smashing, Suchanga did not blink his eyes, and simply punched up. Bang! Bang bang! A violent explosion resounded in all directions, and the stones on his fist crackled and exploded into pieces, before he could even hold a breath. The face of the 5 leaders changed on the spot. Immediately raised his hands in surrender. Stop. I admit defeat, I'm just joking with you. Suchanga slashed over, and the terrifying knife light was even more dazzling than lightning, stirring up a brilliant arc. The 5 leaders were directly cut off their heads, and became a headless corpse. The body also fell to the ground, screaming for his life. As soon as the 5 leaders died, there was no longer a leader in Erlong's eye. And in an instant, everyone lost their backbones, like headless flies, fleeing madly in panic. Some of them jumped up at the house, and wanted to jump on the house. But how can mortals have that ability? Suchanga chased after him and slashed to death. Others jumped into the well, but as soon as they jumped in, they were still in the period of falling, and they were crushed into a blood mist by a coercive pressure. It didn't take long for everyone in the cottage to be killed. After another while, everyone was killed, and not a single one remained. In the end, a one-eyed robber pretended to be dead, and Suchanga sneered and cut him into sashimi. Immediately, Suchanga came to Jui Hall, and immediately found several fish tanks and bird cages on the table, and there were several flowers, birds, insects, and fish in them. Although these are not people, but in accordance with the principle of not staying, they cannot be let go. Suchanga kicked up, and the birdcage fish tank was suddenly kicked and exploded, and the little things inside died directly and exploded into gorgeous fireworks. Finally, he searched for a while in the Jui hall, successfully found a mechanism on the wall, twisted the mechanism, and a secret room suddenly appeared in front of him. The secret room is about 10 square in size and is filled with various iron boxes. Treasure chest. Suchanga's face was delighted. P.S. Onomatopoeia, pronounced chua, describes the sound of friction that is short and quickly streaked, extending to mean super fast. Looking at these treasure chests, Suchanga stepped forward and blasted one of them with a punch. Suddenly, gold and silver treasures flowed out, including onyx, jadeite, and jade bracelet necklaces, dazzling and shining. He took all the orders and kept none. Then punch one by one, all these treasure chests were blasted, and they successfully obtained 1,000,000 taels of gold, hundreds of thousands of taels of silver, and a total of 280,000 spirit stones, all of which were top-grade spirit stones. These should be the savings saved by Erlang Zai after so many years of raiding homes and robbing houses. Just as he was about to leave, he suddenly noticed that there were still gold coins scattered on the ground, and his divine sense swept 2,000,000. Gold coins are only used in the mundane and are useless to monks. However, Suchanga still packed up and walked out. Out of the Jui hall, I happened to meet Gao Shen'er and walked into the cottage. Feng Kai was afraid that those robbers would take her hostage and use it to blackmail Long, so she consciously stayed outside. Suchanga looked at the gold coins in the storage bag, and then looked at her, and immediately waved his hand proudly, and countless gold coins suddenly piled up in midair to form a mountain of gold, dazzling golden light shining in all directions. Give you a little gold coin, take it and use it, buy whatever you want. When the words fell, Gao Shen'er looked directly stupid, staring blankly at the mountains of dazzling gold coins, and there was only one word in her mind. Trench. By God, is this really a little? That's clearly 1,000,000. That's 1,000,000 gold coins. With such a large amount, it is enough to spend enough food and clothing for a lifetime. She grew up in the village, even the richest family in the village only has thousands of gold coins. She has never seen such a large number of gold coins since she was a child, and now she is stunned, and unable to recover from the shock for a long time. Here, after sending out the gold coins, in Suchanga's mind, the system subsidy arrived on time. Ding! You sent 2,000,000 gold coins, and the tens of billions of subsidies took effect, triggering an excess critical attack. This excess critical attack multiplier, 700,000 times. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 1.4 trillion gold coins. Groove. Suchanga is happy to fall from the sky. Just love the feeling of bursting gold coins. But after the surprise, he let out a complicated wry laugh. Read more novels for free on our website, tinyurl.com/2aa54z8b. Useless things, but I didn't expect to spend more and more, and I can't finish spending it. But since you can't finish it, let's go to the mundane puff girl another day. Can puff girls cost money? It can be called a bottomless pit, and I am afraid that I will not spend it all. At this time, Gao Shen'er finally came back to her senses. A touch of emotion suddenly came to my heart. It is clear that they have never known each other, but the Immortals have saved themselves, and now they are sending themselves so many gold coins. So he should like himself, right? Why else do so much for yourself? Thinking of this, she couldn't help but ask, Anong, why did you give me so many gold coins, Su? Chang'e waved his hand with a smile, and said generously, no why, I am duty bound to do chivalry and righteousness. Ah. It turns out that this is the case, Anong is so good, thank you Anong a lot. Gao Shanner was moved, and she couldn't help it, and crystal tears slipped down her eyes. Since she was a child, no one has ever given her so many gold coins. This terrifying amount can be said to be a great gift, no matter what she does, she can't repay it. Anong, if you need Shanner in the future, please don't hesitate to open your mouth, Shanner will agree. Before she finished speaking, she suddenly realized something, and her little face couldn't help but blush. Anong is a high-ranking immortal, what do you need to help yourself? Not at all. Moreover, a person as heroic and martial as Duke N. Yushu Linfeng must not lack women to give hugs, he is just a mortal, he can only hope for luxury. Here, when Su Chang'e heard her words, he smiled heartily and was regarded as an answer. Chivalry is only part of the reason, and the more important reason is that he can't use these gold coins at all. So just do a good thing. Okay, nothing else, I'm leaving. He took out the flying rainbow sword and left with the sword. Anong, Gao Shanner looked at his back from afar, only feeling that this back was so dashing, but it was so far away. She watched the back fade away, and her heart was stunned. P.S. Thank you for the milk tea sent yesterday, Yun Cheyun who loves mustard. Octopus. Love letters, IH hi, likes, try to hurry, milk tea, ignorant. Shower, and the rest will be next time. There was a little problem with this chapter just now, I'm sorry everyone, now. It's changed, really can't help it, the little author will think about it. Painfully. After a period of flight, Su Chang'e soon arrived at Panlong Mountain. This time, there was no more injustice on the road. Soon, he found the roadless mountain wall at that time. Look at the mountain wall in front of you. The thorn bushes here have grown very vigorously, spreading, entwining those big stones layer after layer. Ordinary people can't wait to stay away if they come here. The reason is simple, those thorny bush leaves are like sharp blades, and scratching on the leg is a wound. Therefore, no one has ever found anything strange inside the mountain wall during this time. Hey, young man, stay away from those thorns, you'll get hurt if you are scratched. Suddenly, an old woman in the distance anxiously reminded, the day before yesterday, a young child came to the mountain to hunt, and he was accidentally scratched, and he was in pain, rolling all over the ground. Su Chang'e turned his head and looked at it, it turned out to be a mortal old woman. He smiled and said, okay mother-in-law, you don't have to care about me. Let's go. Well, the young man pay attention, the old woman didn't know that Su Chang'e was a monk, and said while leaving on crutches. When she walked away, Su Chang'e threw out a punch, instantly smashed a shocking hole in the mountain wall, smashed through it alive, and immediately walked in. Entering the cave, a smell of dust comes to your nose. This means that no one has been here for a long time. Su Chang'e couldn't help but be overjoyed, and immediately lifted a stone to block the entrance, and then quickly ran inside. It wasn't long before I heard the sound of running water in the distance. The spiritual vein has been condensed. His steps were faster, like an off-string arrow, and he quickly managed to arrive. Looking around, a long river of silver shining spirit stones has long been condensed here, with waves and waves, spraying and swirling, and the eyes are full of bright crystals at a glance. The rich aura soaked the surrounding air like a morning mist, wet Ha ha ha, leeks have grown, harvest. Suchanga was ecstatic, and inhaled the rich spiritual energy fiercely, and instantly felt that the spiritual power in his body was enriched a lot, and the spiritual energy was precipitated in the dantian, which was extremely comfortable. Without hesitation, he immediately took out the heaven and earth Shanhuang pagoda and put it up in a crazy costume. This time, because his cultivation was almost earth-shaking compared to before, the speed of loading spirit stones was very fast, and in less than an hour, all the spirit stones in this place were harvested, and the spiritual veins were bare. At the end of the harvest, the divine sense swept away, and the number was suddenly obtained. There were 1.3 billion. I have to say that earning money has to be a spiritual vein. Immediately, he entered the Shanhuang pagoda of heaven and earth, ran the spirit-quenching secret technique, and pointed at these spirit stones. Read more novels for free on our website, tinyurl.com/2AA54Z8B. Just listening to the sound of Zhao, the impurities in the middle grade spirit stones were eliminated one after another, and they were promoted to the brightening and brilliant ultimate spirit stones. Then, Suchanga walked out of the pagoda, took out a scattered spirit stone, and put it at the entrance of the spiritual vein, as an introduction, waiting for the leek to grow again and then come to harvest a wave. And then pat your ass and leave dashingly. After going out of the outside world, he moved large stones again, sealed the entrance, and then rushed to Kunlun Mountain non-stop. On the way, he suddenly thought of something, and said to himself, it is not too reassuring to block the entrance with stones. If there is a formation, it is good to directly block the two major banks, so that you can rest assured. It seems that there is a chance to brush up on the formation. Time passed slowly, and in the blink of an eye, another hour passed. At this time, he successfully arrived at Kunlun Mountain. Fortunately, there are no people in Kunlun Mountain. Suchanga took a deep breath. The chi and blood in his body were like dragons, and a terrifying huge force burst out, directly moving the entire Kunlun Mountain, violently moving it to the side. Then he found the entrance of the spiritual vein and got into it. This secret passage is as spacious as the Tongtian Avenue, and it is the same as before. Suchanga went all the way unimpeded, and it didn't take long to hear the familiar sound of water spray. Ha ha ha, I have to say that these two spiritual veins really make me numb. His solid ecstasy, his steps were fast, and it didn't take long to reach the spiritual vein. Looking at it, the superb spirit stones of white flowers here converged into a long river, turbulent flowing, gurgling and gushing, making the sound of the river water breaking through the mountain and breaking the wall. The momentum rushed down, the silver wave was overflowing, rushing and roaring. Even there are faint waves rushing into the sky. It is spectacular. Good. Cool. Suchanga's heart was furious. He inhaled a breath of spiritual energy and precipitated into the dantian, and then immediately took out the heaven and earth Shanhuang pagoda and loaded it with money. His speed was very fast, as if he was collecting sand, frantically pouring into the pagoda, and soon harvested all the spiritual veins, leaving not even a single spirit stone. At the same time, the number is also obtained, 8 billion. Immediately, he took out another scattered spirit stone as an introduction, waiting for the next harvest to continue. After all this, he escaped from the spiritual vein, blocked the entrance, and then raised his sword and returned towards the sect. After some time, he successfully arrived at the sect. Pushing open the door, I saw that Lianer and Xiaoyu were still asleep, and the corners of their lips made a slight snoring sound. P.S. There was a problem in the previous chapter. chapter 179, yesterday, and it was revised immediately after discovering the problem yesterday morning. Please go back and take a look if you are interested. The second half of the plot has been changed, which has caused you a lot of trouble. Sorry.